here, and I'm so popular recipes on my blog, so I'm excited to share about today's recipe. This is one of the... Oh, I need to turn my volume off of my phone. Hello, David. Cupcake sales in school. I don't know, but these are pretty much the best cupcakes. So if you're making some first, these are the ones you definitely want to make. All right. Make sure we're good here. We're good here. Make sure I can see the comments. All right. Now that the technical stuff is out of the way, I came up with this cupcake. I certainly did not. We're ready to get started. I was actually at Epcot, especially Disney World. I love Food and Wine Festival. Now, I'm a Disney fan of the parks over there. I was just there this summer, in fact, but a couple weeks ago, I got to be over there during the Food and Wine Festival just by chance. It was a blog conference. It happened. Anyway, so a bunch of my friends and I, we went around Epcot and ate our way through. Well, they drank their way through, but I don't drink, so I ate my way through, which is why I'm probably way chubbier than everybody else. Anyway, aside, I was eating all these unique pop-up restaurants as we worked our way around, and I thought, oh, I'll just skip America because, hello, I live here. I eat American food. But then I looked at the menu for the restaurant, and it was some Barbie stuff, some pulled pork, yada yada yada. And I saw this Piggylicious, maybe get that anywhere, but the cake, and I was like, bam, that. Now, most of you probably know that I'm completely obsessed with maple bacon. If you have followed me in any way, shape, or form, I have maple bacon cheesecake, and maple bacon fudge, and maple bacon donuts, and maple waffles. If there's a recipe out there that I can put maple and bacon in, I will. So I'm just a little bit obsessed. First maple bacon thing I had. It's my introduction of things maple and bacon, if you will. It's so good to see you guys. YouTube's working! Yay! Oh! Adventures of 7. Hi, driving. Yay! It's only taken a couple weeks. Knock on all the wood. Anyways, woo! Okay. So I tried it, and I will say I was a little bit under at this maple bacon cupcake. Everything underwhelming for me, and maybe it's just because I was so amazing that day that it's not surprising that something the cake person, right? I'm a little obsessed with cakes and frosting, so the frosting of this maple bacon cupcake was divine, and I had to recreate it. The cupcake itself needed to be improved on, in my opinion. It was a little bit more cornly and dense and thick than the light, fluffy cupcake I come to associate with the word cupcake. So, I created my own. It's amazing, and that's what we're going to get started with today. So there's two trains of thought when it comes to bacon in your desserts. Some people just cook the bacon and put it in the sweet dessert, and that salty, flavor from the bacon mixed with the sweetness of whatever dessert you're putting in is enough that you get that great thing. But for me, I'm making things as sweet as possible. So I decided that I prefer, and I've tried both ways, so this is a preference, I prefer candy bacon in my maple bacon cup, so that it's kind of, you still get that flavor. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing, and candied bacon is pretty much the best snack food ever. So that's the route that I went. Now, best part about baking at home is that you can personalize it. You can totally try it with regular bacon or candied bacon. If a mouth filled with 22 sweet teeth. How many teeth we have? I should probably know that. That's me, candy bacon. So we are going to get started now. Oop, wrong button. Nope, wrong button. There we go, right button. All right, so I have a baking sheet, and underneath the baking sheet, I have a sil pack. And the reason that I do this is just because I can peel it away. And most of the nastiness from the bacon, because we're going to bake the bacon, is then easier. It's easier for cleaning, but it's not a mandatory thing. And then some kind of rack. Now, the reason I do the bacon's sitting in all of its own greases. Some people bake their bacon right on the pan, but I find not really a fan. So we're going to take our bacon, and I usually use more than this. This is just what after making 4 batches of candied bacon yesterday. And we're going to just quickly spread it onto your baking sheet. Hello, Claudia. It's sewn like this. Nice to see you. Oh, you guys, I'm so happy with Facebook, and now we've got both. The YouTube side of it is working. We've had great luck with, and this is thick cut bacon. So you want to spread this out. Usually I will say that if you're going to use thick cut is definitely the way to go. We don't want it to be that dry brittle. We want these chunky, especially when we're going to be chopping this up into chunks. I can usually get like 10 on my rack in here. So thick cut bacon, and then you want to, and so like a regular recipe will probably take 10. I like to double this recipe, make cupcakes. So I would definitely do like at least 15 or 16, if not just 20. I put 1.5 pounds of bacon and I use the whole thing. Just take this whole concoction and we're going to start it. All right, so next up, what we want, now some people make their candied bacon just by sprinkling the bacon, but we want to get this started cooking before we put brown sugar on there. I actually make a glaze and we're going to be braising it because that glaze keeps it, you know, keeps it moist and keep it from cooking, and it takes a little bit longer. I like to get a head start. We're going to cook it for 10 minutes, flip it 5 minutes, and then we're going to start adding the glaze. So I'm going to put it in the oven. Okay, now it's time to glaze. So, first thing we want to do is add sugar. Now, I've already measured this out and I wrapped up, but it might be a little bit dry, but that's okay. I love the way brown sugar falls apart. Is that weird that I like that? Probably. Okay, and now we're going to add the maple syrup. None of the fake stuff for me. Syrup. And I like to use pure, at least for this, pure maple syrup. 32 teeth. Thank you, Lindsay. I knew syrup, pure. I'm also a little bit of, you would know the answer. That's true. If you have a lot of sugar, you might only have 22 teeth. I still have 32. I just don't know how many of them are once, you know, you start capping them, right? Been asked a lot about the vinegar. All right, and then we're gonna add some vinegar. And the answer is, I don't remember. I know that's a terrible answer as a foodie. I created something about adding the vinegar into this a couple years ago, and I was doing research on candied bacon, and but I have not been able to make the flavor just a little bit brighter. A way to say, this article, go here, read this. I just remember that it was suggested, and I've tried it both whiteness. I just like it, and I prefer it with the vinegar. There's a little bit of a bite, a little bit of a bite. That's just me. And I just use whatever vinegar I have. I usually have rice vinegar or white vinegar. They both work just fine. All right, now we're gonna stir it up a little bit chunky. Leave it. Now, might take a little while just because it's a bacon. Oh, Jill, that's just wrong. The bacon is the best part. Seriously, you guys are gonna love it. Yes, fake syrup will still work. That is a great question, Holly. Oh, Ellen, I'm so glad you got us. For anybody who's joining us a little bit late, making today is maple bacon cupcakes. I'm gonna chop up and put inside. So this is the glaze, and right now we're working on the candied bacon, the brown sugar, maple syrup, and vinegar glaze. Even though there was chunks of brown sugar in here, once you get started stirring it, it just goes away. So now we have this, and you're gonna have to keep stirring because it will just continue to separate, and the sugar will continue to the bottom in between cycles of brushing it. Okay, now is when we're gonna do our TV magic. Woo! We're gonna pretend that the bacon has already been baking for 10 minutes because we need to move on. Be kind of boring. Okay. Whew. So, oh, hot pad holder. No. Oh, I got one right here. Okay. So, let's pretend the bacon has been baking 10 minutes. And I make candy a lot, so this is my tip for flipping it. I used to flip them one time with a fork, and I recently started using this cake tool, and I can slide it under and like flip a bunch at once. It's seriously awesome, especially when you're making this late at night and you're tired. So now we're gonna take, let's pretend this is the first 10 minutes on one side, 5 minutes on the other. Out your pastry brush, give it a nice this right on the bacon. Oh, and we're gonna, Brandon, hi Brandon. Yes, so the question was, will fake syrup work instead of real maple syrup? It will. Fake syrup is just more on the sweet, sugary side, but it still totally works. I just happen to like the real stuff. But yes, in a pinch it will. The fake syrup just to me is a little bit too sweet, and that's saying something if I think something's too sweet. Okay. Then we're gonna take this and put it back in the oven. And what I do next is I do this for 5 minutes, flip it, glaze it, cook it for 5 minutes, flip it, glaze it, cook it for 5 minutes. And it usually takes between 8 to 10 times in the oven. And I'm going to finish that off later, and I'm going to show you what it looks like afterwards. All right, so this is the finished stuff. It's kind of hard to tell just by looking at it, because with all that glaze, it's not going to get crunchy, so you want to watch it. Once the ends start getting more crisp and brown like this is when you want to pull it out of the oven. See how the ends are a little bit dark? You can always cut off the end if you overcook it a little bit, but you want to keep an eye on it so that you don't just completely burn the whole thing. And it will still be a little bit flexible afterwards just because of all that glaze that we've added. So I'm going to chop this up now, because we want chunks to put inside, oops, wrong button, to put inside the cupcakes. All right. So now is a good time for questions. Sugar is always good. Oh, I would totally say try any bacon. I preferred the candy bacon in these cupcakes, but regular bacon is kind of classic and what more people use, and peppered bacon, that would totally be interesting. I love experimenting with food, so I highly suggest if there's something that you love, giving it a shot. I mean, why not? It's just a batch of cupcakes. What happens if you don't love it? Just make another batch. Oh, Brian, I hope you do make it. It's amazing. Yes, June, is there anything better than bacon? Bacon. I love bacon. All right. So we don't want these to be too small, but you also, because we don't want it to just look like dust inside of our cupcakes, little sprinkling of bacon dust. But you also don't want it to be so big that it's hard for people to eat, right? So I kind of get little blocks going down. Looks about good. All right, and now we're going to put this aside to add to our cupcakes. And now it's time to make the batter. So we're gonna get out Vera. But you can totally make this, you don't have to have a stand mixer to make this. They're cupcakes, it's a super easy recipe, they're really liquidy. Any hand mixer and bowl will totally work. Let's get her plugged in. Ugh. Okay. Now, if you've been to my website and you have been on to this blog post with this recipe, you'll notice that originally it was actually a doctored cake mix recipe, and I've never been a fan of cupcakes, honestly. These are about the only cupcakes I like. And so I just threw a doctored cake mix up there because for me it was more about the frosting. But over the last couple of years I have perfected my cupcake recipe, and I recently just switched it over to a from scratch cupcake, and that's what we're going to be making right now. From scratch maple cupcake that we're going to add bacon to. But you can totally still use a cupcake mix. However you like to doctor them, plain, or adding pudding and stuff like that to it, and then just add some maple extract or maple flavoring to it, and that will give you your maple cupcakes. I will say though, this recipe is so light and fluffy and delicious. I highly recommend it. Okay, we're gonna start with flour. There we go. And this recipe that I'm making, the recipe that I'm making right now makes 48 cupcakes, so feel free to cut it in half if you only want a dozen. And then we have baking powder and baking soda, and I pre-measured all these so it would go faster, but it's kind of hard to see. They're really small amounts. And then salt. Okay, and give it a little mix. And then we're gonna add the sugar, because everything needs sugar, right? Jill, come on by. They'll be ready well, actually I have some ready now. So when I'm done filming, come on by, Jill, and you can eat as many cupcakes as you want. So last week when we had the eggnog video and it totally fell apart and failed. Anyway, I was saying that I was leaving town right after I finished filming. Well, guess what? I'm leaving town again. So I'm going to have, let's see, 48 plus 48, 94 cupcakes. So feel free to come by and get some if you live locally. And if you know me personally, otherwise please don't come. That's just creepy. All right, so we have our dry ingredients mixed up and we're gonna add a cube of butter and mix it again. So I just plop that right in there. All right, and you want to stir this until it's not grainy, but kind of sandy. I don't know if you can really see. Let's get this other camera involved, see if we can get a little bit closer. There we go. So see how it's just kind of not quite pure powder because we've added that butter in, but it's also not like pasty like adding too much butter. It's just crumbly. And this is the look that we're going for. All right. All right, so I had a couple questions I want to get to before they disappear and I can't see them anymore. Can any flavor of bacon work? Totally. Try it, experiment with it. Smoked bacon or hickory bacon or peppered bacon like Rebecca mentioned. Experiment. I love experimenting in the kitchen. What is the difference between candied bacon and regular bacon? I'm glad you asked. Regular bacon, you just, cook or fry, however you do it. Candied bacon has this hard outer shell of sugar. So it's a sweet bacon and it mixes that great, salty, savory, sweet flavor together. Oh, hi. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Hey, I'm filming. Can you wait just a minute?
Okay.
Okay. You can go grab one of those cupcakes over there if you want to eat that, okay? You want a cupcake? Go get one. Okay.
And those cupcakes?
No, not one of the pretty ones. One of the ones over there. I kept all the prettiest ones over here for frosting later, so he can have one of the other ones. Anyway, what was the other question?
These ones, Mom?
Yes, you can use a different flavor. Oh, you like cupcakes because they take less time to bake. I totally get why some people love cupcakes. They're pretty fast, but at the end of the day, they're really inelegant to eat, and I'm OCD enough that I like that perfect ratio between my frosting and my cake, so I even like to keep my layers, I don't know, and I don't know, it's just inelegant to eat. And honestly, I'd rather frost a cake for 400 than frost 400 cupcakes. Personal preference. Okay, so we have just added our butter to our dry ingredients, and now we're going to work on our liquid. So I'm going to put this off to the side. Ooh, push the mixer. Get a bowl. Okay, see if we can get Vera a little bit further away so you can see better. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to add some liquids together. So we have, and I wrapped everything in plastic, so sorry, sour cream. Now, I don't know that I've mentioned this before because I really haven't shared my cake recipes before. This is kind of unique. I use sour cream and plain Greek yogurt pretty interchangeably when it comes to baking, or even a lot of sauces as well. They really have a really similar effect, and so if you don't have sour cream in the fridge, you can totally use plain yogurt. I prefer the Greek yogurt for the thicker. I think it matches the sour cream better. And if a recipe calls for Greek yogurt and you don't have it, try using sour cream. All right, now we're going to add some mayonnaise. And this is a nice creamy way of getting some more fats into your recipes. So it's one that I use a lot. Oh, you guys can hear my kitchen falling apart. there's a lot of ingredients in today's recipe, so everything's like all really close together, but you know, trying to keep it looking nice here. So now we're gonna add some room temperature eggs. Now I highly recommend room temperature when you are baking with all of your ingredients. So even the sour cream and the mayonnaise and the milk we're gonna use later and the eggs, I just got out, you know, like an hour and a half ago. It just makes your baking a lot better. All right, so now 4 eggs. And last one. And we're just gonna whisk it together. So pop the egg yolks and just mix it together until it's smooth. Ooh, you just bought maple bacon. Oh, you might not even have to candy it. You could just cook that up and use it straight. That's awesome. Hello, it's so good to see you, Glibber. Okay, so here's a question for you guys. When I'm responding to comments, sometimes it's people's names and it's pretty easy. Jill, Brian, June, easy peasy. But sometimes it's, you know, some kind of handle. And then I'm not quite sure what to call you. You know, Behind the Cake, Adventures of 7, not too hard, but Glibber777. Do you want the whole name, Glibber777? Or like nickname Glibber? I mean, how personal are we getting here? You know, how friendly and kind are we? We're besties now, right? Because we're cooking together. It's something that you do with friends. I don't know. I'm just weird. Ignore me. All right, so this is nice and smooth now. We're gonna bring back our big mixer. Oh, here she comes.
Careful to plug your ears at this part.
Oh, Edward wants you to plug your ears at this part. He says it's a little loud. All right, so we're gonna pour our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients. And scrape it to get all the goodness out. You don't want to miss anything. All right. Give that a stir. We're gonna add the milk. Hopefully you heard this. Milk. Now you can just add the milk all at once and then mix it, but as long as the mixer's on, I just add the milk. Now you'll see this is actually a really wet batter. It's just the way this batter goes. So now we're gonna add our bacon. Now I have like, I don't know, nine big long pieces of bacon that I've completely chopped up for this. But rather than put it all into the batter right now, as you scoop it into your pan, sometimes those chunks of things fall, especially if the batter is a little bit wet like this. I'm sure you've noticed if you've cooked with things, you've added like chunky stuff too. So I'm actually gonna add about 2/3 of the bacon to this batter and stir it in. And then I'm gonna save a little bit to sprinkle just on the top so that we still have some bacon on the top of those cupcakes. So when you break them apart, hopefully they're more even and it's not just cupcake bacon chunks, right? Nobody wants that. At least I don't. All right, so there's about half the bacon. And then here's the fresh stuff I just chopped up. You're gonna put some of that in too. Shh, Betty, shh. You're really loud. Okay, now we're gonna get our cupcake pan out and scoop it. So I'm gonna move Vera out of the way. So somebody just asked what's my mixer's name. This is Vera. She's a Bosch Universal Plus mixer. She's amazing. I love Bosch mixers, and they don't pay me to say that. I wish they did, but they don't. I just really love it. And her name is Vera, from one of my favorite TV shows. And if you're a really big nerd, you might get the reference. It's from Firefly. And if you're not a really big nerd, then you probably now think that I'm a really big nerd, and that's okay, because I am. All right, so we're gonna take the mixing blades out of here. Kind of getting all cleaned up to do the next part. All right. So, like I said, this recipe makes 48 cupcakes. So if you only want 24, then go ahead and half the recipe. So we're gonna scoop this in. So I like to use this scoop right here. This is a, oh, it doesn't have a number on it, but this is a large cookie scoop, and it's perfect for cupcakes, in my opinion. Love it. I'm just gonna scoop some of the batter out, and then bam, right in there. And I try to make sure that I'm grabbing a couple chunks of bacon every time that I do this, so that I don't like get one cupcake that's baconless, because that would be really sad if you were the person who got a baconless cupcake, unless, like Jill, you don't want the bacon in your cupcake, which is ridiculous, because this is amazing, and Jill, you're crazy. Yes, because it's candied bacon, it kind of has a little coating on it, and they're nice little small chunks. So the bacon, yes, Anne-Marie, does still have a nice bite to it, but it's, trying to decide how to best phrase it. I mean, you're really just eating a little chunk of the bacon at a time. You're not like trying to eat a whole crispy piece of bacon. So I haven't had any complaints about the crispiness level, but ever. So that's a good question. All right, so see how fast that was? Seriously, my favorite tool ever. And then this is ready for the oven. I'm sorry you feel that way, Laura, but yeah, I had a pet pig, and I still love and eat bacon. It's my favorite food group. I'm definitely not a vegetarian, so. All right, do I add the maple? Oh, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, okay, I totally missed some ingredients. When I add the eggs, the yogurt, and the mayo, I was supposed to add maple flavoring. June, that's a really good catch. Yeah, thankfully I can still add maple to the rest. Oh my word, I'm such a dork. That's what happens when you know, have too much going on at once. So, this is what I use. Oh my gosh. Now I'm bright red. Live. This is what happens when it's live, right? This is what I use for my maple flavoring. It's Mapleine. It's what you can use to make, it's not focused. It's what you can use to make your own maple syrup. So this is what I use for the maple flavor. So what we're gonna do, let's see, to save the day. Okay, we're gonna save the day here. This is how we're gonna handle it. I'm gonna add some Mapleine to the batter, but for now I'm gonna just like add a little drop to all of these. Yeah, luckily the ones I already baked that I'm gonna be frosting in a minute for you, I did not forget the maple on those. Yeah. Oh, that one's gonna be really maple flavory. Okay. Oh my gosh, seriously. Hoot and a half, right? You guys can all laugh at me now. Yes, Melissa, this is what happens when it's live. You've been eyeing the mixer. Oh my word, it is the best mixer for bread, for sure. It's 800 watts, it's super strong. I adore it for breads. It can handle like 20 cups. It's amazing. Hold the phone, good fix, few toothpicks. Yeah, that's true. You can just drizzle maple syrup on your cupcakes. That would totally work too. Does it taste funny with the bacon in it? Well, it depends on if you like maple and bacon. I love it, so I don't think it tastes funny with the bacon at all. Personal preference. Okay, so we're just gonna save the day on these. Actually, I'm probably just gonna throw these away. But we're pretending here. And let's say I've mixed these beautifully. You guys are gonna fake it with me, right? And now we have that pretty going into the oven shot. Bam! All right. And then over here, I have, oh, cupcake down. Here I have the finished cupcakes. All right, there we go. So, remember how I said at the end, I like to add a little bit of bacon to the top before I bake it, so you can see that. Yeah, let's break one apart and look at it real fast. So hopefully, see, there's some chunks of bacon in there. Oh man, this is one of like the light bacon ones. I hate getting a light bacon one. That's always disappointing. All right, now we're gonna make the frosting. And the whole reason that I created these was because I fell in love with the frosting at Epcot. So maple frosting, here we go. Now, usually I would use Vera again, but she's dirty. So we're gonna use a regular bowl and hand mixer. Do a quick wipe down. And an overhead shot. So this is basically like a maple buttercream, except that I prefer cream cheese frosting. So we're gonna add cream cheese to start with. Oh, Melissa, thank you. You're so sweet. And then we're gonna add some butter. Now again, room temperature is best. And oh, let's see if we can get the hand mixer out without knocking everything over. Okay. We just want to beat those together real good. Okay. Ooh, that's looking a little bright. There we go. Okay. You want to beat that until it's nice and smooth. And now we're going to add the maple flavor, because I can't be the dork who forgets to add it twice. So we're going to do it right now. This is where you want to add any of your flavoring. You know, if you want to add vanilla as well, vanilla is a great flavor enhancer, and so I like to add a little bit of maple and a little bit of vanilla. In fact, that's what I do to the cupcakes. Don't go by me. Click over to the website, get the printed recipe, since this has been a little bit of a hot mess. But don't forget the maple flavoring. It's the most important part of maple bacon cupcakes. So, maple frosting. Go to page 2 of the recipe notes. All right, so this is kind of up to you. I like to use about a tablespoon of the mapleine. Okay. Oh, and I have mapleine everywhere. Up real fast and mix that in. Now, when you're using a hand mixer, you want to make sure you scrape the sides. Vera has its own little side scraper things, but hand mixers don't. So you don't want later to have something that's not mixed in. And better to do it right the first time. So now we're going to add the powdered sugar. Now this is where you kind of want to go whatever thickness of frosting that you like, but a little bit thicker because we're going to add a little bit of my secret recipe for the flavor of this. So powdered sugar, I end up using about 1.5 pounds, but I usually start with like, I don't know, 1/2 pound at a time and mix it in so it doesn't get too crazy everywhere. Powdered sugar is not great for all this equipment. All right, so hopefully you guys can still hear me while this is mixing. Let's point the microphone at me a little bit better. Oh. All right, so June asked a great question. How far ahead can you make the bacon? You can make it like a day or two ahead of time. The biggest problem, of course, with that is that you might eat all the bacon before it's time to make the cupcakes. So, you know, there's that. Yes, Mapleine is great stuff. I prefer it because I think it's stronger than some of the other maple flavor extracts. Yes, cream cheese frosting is definitely the way to go. All right, now that it's nice and smooth, we're gonna add a little bit more.
One behind you.
Oh, that's raw bacon. Don't eat that, sweetie. Let me cook that first. Okay. We'll add some more powdered sugar.
And what was the bacon that you cooked?
The bacon that I cooked, it's in the cupcakes.
What? Can you bake that bacon for me?
Yes, I will make some more bacon for you. Just give me a minute till I'm finished. Okay, buddy? Lindsay, that's a great question. Do I use unsalted butter? All right. Here's my thing about unsalted butter. So the reason that most bakers and chefs use unsalted butter is so that you can control the amount of salt going into your recipe. By making unsalted butter, you can, you choose how much salt is in there. Where if you're using salted butter, there's already a little bit of salt in there. You're not really quite sure on the amount since it's harder to control. I'm a salt addict. I tend to salt things a lot more than other people. Just ask Jill. So I just use salted butter because it's cheaper and I'm gonna add a lot of salt anyway. So unless the recipe specifically needs to not have salt in it for some strange reason, which I don't know why you would ever have a recipe without salt in it, because salt's a flavor enhancer and I like to enhance all the flavors. I just use salted butter. Super cheap. I don't know, I'm cheap. What can I say? But if a recipe calls for unsalted butter and I only have salted, I will start the recipe by making it with a little less salt. Saves me money both ends. The salted butter is cheaper and then I don't have to use as much salt. So, money saving tip. That was a really good question, Lindsay. Honey, can you wait till I'm finished? And then I will get you whatever you want, but just wait till I'm finished, okay? All right. See those little puffs of powdered sugar clouds? Yeah. We think that's why my live stream quit working last week. The little powdered sugar puff clouds kind of got in the equipment and made it not play nice. I'm so glad that I justified your thoughts, Lindsay. All right, this is still not quite the thickness that I'm looking for, so I'm gonna add a little bit more powdered sugar again. This is one of those things, I actually never measure the powdered sugar when it comes to frosting. I always just eyeball it until it's the texture that I'm looking for. Baking's a little bit more important for exact ingredients, but I don't know. Frosting, you can play with a little bit. I do love, see, I told you that Jill would speak up and agree with me. I love my salt. Love it, love it, love it. Oh, I know, little kids are the best, even when you're trying to work. I wouldn't have it any other way. They love helping me in the kitchen, and it's super fun to have them. Oh, see, look how nice and thick this is looking now. This is what we're going for. Finish mixing in this, and we are going to be ready to move on. And look at that great color that the Mapleine gives the frosting. The batter should be the same color. You know, should being the optimum word. All right, one last bowl scrape, one last mix. right. Nice and thick. This stuff is gonna be great. All right, we'll move it off to the side.
Can I taste that?
You want to taste it? Yeah, you can taste it. Wipe down to stay clean. Do you want a little tasting spoon? Okay, here you go. Tell me what you think. Yeah? Yeah, I got the thumbs up. Woo! On to secret ingredient time. Okay. So, now I already knew I was going to have a fail today because I went to finish up measuring ingredients and I realized I only had half a cup of heavy whipping cream and I'm supposed to have 3/4 of a cup for this recipe. So the Maybelline was just a bonus. Whipping cream. Pour that into your bowl and we're going to start whipping it up. Now, you can use your hand mixers, but I have fallen completely. I used this last week. I don't know when the eggnog video cut out last week, but I think I was already using this. This is the Braun, milkshake blender type tool and has a bunch of different heads. And I love this one. Or some people have their hand mixer also has the whisk attachment. So I think that this whips up egg whites and whipping cream way fast. So that's what we're going to do it now. And it's a small amount, so it shouldn't take very long at all. See how fast that's already coming together? And it's only splattering, everywhere. Should have grabbed a deeper bowl. I almost feel like when it's a larger amount of whipped cream, it actually is easier to whip because it doesn't splatter quite this much. Anyway, a couple of questions that I'm going to answer while I'm doing this really fast. Why does my powdered sugar sometimes taste a little dirty? Last week I made a glaze and opened a new Costco bag of powdered sugar and it tasted dirty. That's an interesting question. I don't know that I have ever had powdered sugar that I thought tasted dirty. I will have to look for that. I will say that when I buy, I hope you can still hear me while I'm mixing. Tell me really fast if you can't and I'll stop talking for a second. I don't really like to buy powdered sugar too bulky because I feel like it gets kind of nasty in like super big chunks and it doesn't break apart. I really don't love the super bulky Costco powdered sugar. I prefer to buy mine in the little smaller packages. I feel like the quality is a lot better in the smaller packages versus the bulk powdered sugar. And maybe it's just me being silly or maybe it's real. I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel about it. Okay, if unsalted butter is not cheaper where you're at, then you might as well buy it and control your sugar that much more. I would totally go for that. If they were the same cost, I would definitely use unsalted butter and control my salt a little bit better. Stale. That's a good word, Kim. Lindsay. Kim said that powdered sugar sometimes tastes stale, and I definitely admit that I have had some stale powdered sugar before, especially when I buy the bulky stuff. So maybe that's the word what you're saying is dirty. Maybe it's kind of a stale flavor. All right, I'm gonna pause and just really whip this back. Crank this up to high. Lindsay, I also feel the same way about, what was I gonna say? I also feel the same way about shortening. I like to buy the shortening in the little packages because I feel like when I buy big shortening, it goes rancid really fast. So I never buy like really big bulky shortenings either. I like to buy the little itty bitty shortenings because I don't use it very often. And so I like to keep it as fresh as possible. So that's another one that I don't like to buy in bulk. Usually I'm all about buying in bulk. All right, We're almost there. We're looking for thick peak. Okay. So Anne-Marie asked if this was my secret, and yes, this is my secret to my frosting being a lot creamier. Some people like the American buttercream, but for me it's super sweet. Some people like the Swiss meringue buttercreams and stuff like that, but to me they're just super buttery, and I kind of want to marry the two together, so I kind of make more of an American buttercream. This happens to be a cream cheese frosting. And then I like to add a little bit of stabilized whipped cream on the other end, so I make it super thick, and then I bring it back down to the texture I'm looking for with a stabilized whipped cream, and I feel like I still get that kind of that buttery creaminess to it without it being super sweet, but with the texture that I'm looking for. So now we're going to stabilize the cream. I was kind of going by my brain power and not looking at my notes very good, and usually before I start the frosting, what I do is I take some water and I add some gelatin to it. I let it bloom, and then I microwave it, and then I bring it down to room temperature. So I've already done that.
Mom,
So I already have some gelatin that I've bloomed and microwaved and is cooled, and we're going to add that and whip it up, and that's how you get stabilized whipped cream. Now because it's still a little warm, it will soften the whipped cream for just a minute, but then it's going to come right back to those stiff peaks. Don't tilt. It's just sprayed everywhere. Oh, I hadn't thought about using this in that deep like cup that it came with. Yeah, that would probably be smarter than G. That's a great suggestion. Hello, Nine Cat. It's good to see you. Oh, that's interesting. So you add a couple little, so Kim says that she adds a few drops of lemon to her stale powdered sugar to bring it back to life. Oh, I need to switch hands. Usually it doesn't go quite this runny again. I'm thinking that maybe my gelatin was still a little bit warm. We're going to give it another minute, and then we're going to give up on it. I have not put my shortening in the refrigerator, Tracy. That's a great question. So have any of you put your shortening in the refrigerator to keep it fresher longer? I don't refrigerate my cupcakes, Kim. That's a great question. I am anti-refrigerating anything that's baked because the refrigerator just dries out baked goods, and I don't like my baked goods dried out. For baked goods, I either leave them on the counter or I freeze them. But I don't refrigerate baked goods unless I absolutely have to, like it has a cheesecake filling or something like that. But I really try to avoid it, if at all possible. Okay, coming back together. Phew. What? Can you go ask Brooklyn for help? Thank you. Bye. Oh my word. I even think this is like slowing down. I can't tell if I'm flushing because the lights are all on and it's a little bit warm, or if I'm just frustrated that so many things are going wrong, so I apologize. Oh, thanks for watching. I'm sorry that you have to leave, that we didn't get done in time, but don't forget to come back and finish watching it and definitely try out the recipe. Bye. Okay. Ooh, we're just gonna give up now. I didn't get back to stiff peaks, but we're giving up. And moving on. All right, so here we go. So here's back to our thick frosting. And I'm only gonna add about 1/3 of this in now, because you might not use the whole amount of your stabilized whipped cream. And since mine is so liquidy, we'll probably use even less than normal. But I usually start out by adding about 1/3 of it, mixing it, trying it, adding another 1/3, mixing it, trying it, and then stopping when I'm happy with the texture. But the mix of that cream cheese and the maple is really where it's at. This frosting is amazing. All right, add a little bit more. Oh, and that's, look how smooth that's looking. Let's get another camera angle on that. So pretty and nice and soft now. Yum! All right, and of course you have to taste it. I'm make sure it's good, which it is. All right, piping bag. I like to use a really big round tip, like this. There we go, focus. For cupcakes, I like to use the really big tips on cupcakes versus small tips. Whether you're using a star tip or a closed star tip or an open star tip or a round tip, I think bigger is better for cupcakes. Right, and you want to open up your bag kind of like this and create a little like cup when you're using piping bags, like that. And then that makes it easier to scoop your frosting in. And it doesn't make a huge mess around the top of your bag. So all of this area should stay clean. Twist it and pinch that twist between your thumb and your hand. And you can pipe. All right, let's bring out the cupcakes. I'm going slow so I don't drop another one. Okay. Oh, wrong one. Other camera angle. At least I wasn't doing anything embarrassing, right? Okay. So then I just squeeze and pipe big and then a little swirl. Squeeze, let it fill in, a little swirl. And you can do as much or as little frosting, of course, as you desire. This stuff is good, so I tend to go overboard. Oh, squeeze out. And then lastly, I save a little bit of the candied bacon, or I make even more, and then I chop them up into big pieces so that I can add them to the top of the cupcake. So, nice big chunk like that. Oh, look at that. So good. Oh, my house smells amazing. You guys all wish you were my neighbors right now, I'm pretty sure. So good. Yes, definitely real life baking. All right. And that is that. I guess we want to open one of them up, right, and see. Oh, I was going to grab one of the early ones so I can show you. I overfilled some and I underfilled some. Just a second. Let me grab some. Hold on. Okay. So I want to show you a couple differences. The first batch that I baked, I had, what's the word I'm looking for? I tried to cook most of these at once. So this is 48, so there's a lot. So I actually cooked like 36 at once. And I had, some on the top rack and some on the bottom rack. And then halfway through, I flipped them. And that's really a great way to go. And I not only went from top to bottom, but I also flipped the pans around in the oven. If you have hot spots in your oven, it's just always good to move things if you have a really full oven. But then the last batch, this pretty batch, was just one pan by itself. So I would say if you are making this full-sized batch, I would not try to squeeze 32 in the oven at a time. You'll get much better results with the cupcakes if you only do one pan at a time. And this is what it looks like. So this is the one that I cooked by one pan by itself. You get a nice little dome, nice color on the bottom and the top. These are two examples of ones that this was started at the top and this one started at the bottom, and then I flipped them, and this one ended on the bottom, this one ended at the top, and the top got super golden on this, and the bottom got super dark on this one. So, I mean, once you add frosting to it, nobody's really gonna care. But if you're, about aesthetics and it bothers you, just consider not trying to bake 36 cupcakes at once. I would even hesitate to do 24 at once. I'd just try to do 12 at a time for the best results, unless you have one of those really big cupcake pans that can be in the middle row all at one time. That's definitely one way to go. All right. Yes, you need the recipe. So, Juan Carlos, you are watching through YouTube. And if you just open up the description box, the recipe is already printed in there. So you can just copy it. Or any of you watching from YouTube or Facebook, you can just go to my website, ashleemarie.com, Ashlee, A-S-H-L-E-E, and search Maple Bacon Cupcakes, and the recipe will be there. And I just updated it too. So I will say, if you want to frost these really big, like I'm doing, you will probably want to double the recipe if you're making the full 48 cupcakes. If you're going to half the cupcake recipe, but you still want really full frosting, then this frosting recipe is probably just perfect for you. All right, really quickly trying to get extra cupcakes frosted so I can rip one open and show you the inside. All right, add more bacon, because you can never, ever, ever have enough. Now this is coming from someone who used to have a pet pig. They're smart animals, they're great animals, and they're delicious animals. Okay, so let's rip one apart so you can see the inside, and fingers crossed I get one that's really bacony. And look how soft and squishy this is. This is just a really fluffy recipe. Oh. And there we go. Big chunks of bacon all the way throughout. Wrong one. That is seriously so good. Now, by adding the whipped cream to this, it really does soften the frosting quite a bit. It's definitely a much softer frosting. So good. But feel free to just skip that step. For me, I like the creaminess that it adds, but it's definitely a less stable frosting. So if you want to keep your frosting really, really thick and stand and hold like peaks, if you're using like the star tip, then I would definitely just stick with the cream cheese buttered Maybelline powdered sugar rub. So, I wish I could share with you guys. I have so many cupcakes. Alright. Yes, you can use this recipe for a layer cake. I have totally used this one before for my white cake. This recipe is the same one that I use for my Snickers cupcakes as well. So I add caramel to that, or dulce de leche to that, and chunks of Snickers as well. Super good. So delicious. Alright. Well, that's it. we made cupcakes. Candied bacon, maple cupcakes with the candied bacon in them, maple frosting with candied bacon on top, and that's it. That is how you make this recipe. I hope you enjoyed it. Next Wednesday, I will actually be in Seattle doing a live stream like this at the All Recipe headquarters up in Seattle. So to keep a live stream here on my channel, it'll probably be on Tuesday. So go ahead and look out for that. Don't forget to subscribe or follow me on Facebook so that you don't miss these videos in the future. Miss me making a total fool of myself. Who wouldn't want, you don't want to miss that. It's super fun. And leave me some suggestions for what you want to see. I see that we already had a suggestion from Adventures of Seven for pumpkin ginger cookies. Never made that before. Great suggestion. So yeah, leave me a suggestion and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Oh, I just spilled everywhere. Bye.